It's the track.
Recording the podcast Saturday, the 21st, day later, as always. Shane Ruthe in the Track Stitch HQ, back at the Track Stitch HQ. The Track Stitch podcast now brought to you by Spotify. Shano, exciting news. I don't think we're actually bought to the fans by Spotify, but we are now on Spotify.
Might have been misleading, deceptive conduct under the act here in New Zealand, but alas.
But either way, good news. Last week was our debut on Spotify. The fans had spoken. They said, hey, we want to listen to the podcast when we're out running, training, doing whatever. So we put it up on Spotify. I think we had like maybe 11 or 12 listens. That's quite successful. Hey, you got to start somewhere, mate.
You do, mate. You do.
How's everything in the land of the long white cloud? You okay?
Yeah, we're good, mate.
I've had a few rude days here readjusting to altitude training up here in the Mile High City. So the fans can probably hear in my voice, I'm a little bit nasally. If I need to make a few stops to blow my nose, I apologize for that one.
Yeah, I've been under the pump as well. Well, that's the thing, when it's a labour of love, you got to earn your day job, because the sponsorship dollars haven't exactly come flooding in yet for the Track Stitch, but we live in hope. We live in hope.
Should we just dive right into some topics, mate? Yeah, let's do it. So we were on air just a few hours before, because this is our signature of coming on air just moments before these big events that are happening here in the US, particularly in the indoor season. I said I'd come back and do an emergency podo or an update if there was anything dramatic happened with the big Cole Hocker, Sam Ruthe showdown at the JDL Fast Track meet. Actually, it's the sound running meet in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Well, I think we should just probably start focusing on the real positives out of that one, which was the performance of Cole Hocker. Man, 3:45.94. And I know that this has been discussed on other pods around, but we've got to put our spin on it. What did you think of this performance? How does this bode well? This was definitely something different, something we've never seen before from Hocker at this level. And what does this mean for the rest of the season?
I think Cole Hocker's trajectory, I think you're seeing a even better Cole Hocker than we've ever seen before. I think we're seeing a guy who now not only can kick off a very fast pace, I think we're seeing a guy who can now time trial with all but perhaps Jakob. Yeah, which is scary for all those other guys.
Yeah. And this, I think we talked about this when it happened. This is absolute. He is square in the middle of this like peak career window. Like this is time to make hay for him, so to speak. And man, you said it. Like this guy is. He's just. I think that performance for me showed me that he is the most well-rounded middle distance runner I think that we've seen in a very, very long time. Maybe even, dare I say this, maybe even more well-rounded than the GOAT of the distance, Hisham El Garouj. Is that a crazy statement there, Shane? Because let me tell you, if I wouldn't even peak LG versus peak Cole Hocker, if you put them in kind of a slower, when I say slower, but you know what I'm saying, right? A non-sub 3:27 race. We saw what Hocker did in 2024 with that ability to close as hard as he did, despite getting bulked a couple of times by Jakob in the home straight. Man, this guy just has every tool in the tool chest to be a great.
And he particularly has something that neither Morsali, El Garouj, or Nagusa's really in the similar mold to those two, in that they all had, relative to their, say, ability to time trial and their ability to drive from 400 or 500 or 350 out, he has an amazing last 100 meters.
Yes, He's got that kind of, we talk about a lot, that sort of African, certainly from our era, we always joked about how no matter how good you were, we talked about it with Mottram, no matter how good Mottram was, there was always some, Kenyan or Ethiopian that could just, whir the chopsticks just that bit faster in the final 100 than they could. And that's Cole Hocker, right? And it's, I was watching this race in the same way that, because your feed, you said it dropped out, right? Yeah, I couldn't watch it either. Didn't know how to watch it. I don't have a runner's space.
Was it that one or another one? I can't remember. I
don't know. But either way, I was just watching this one. It was pretty cool way to watch it with the splits just popping up on the screen, right?
Yeah, I saw this one. My runner's space was good.
Right.
Yeah, it was the 348 I didn't get to watch of Ruthe.
Gotcha. So anyway, like for me, I'm just watching these splits pop up on the screen. Of course, I'd made my bold prediction about how I thought the race was going to go, which was Hocker was going to lead out probably in about 1:55. The pace might drop off in that third lap before he really showed the field, including young Sam Ruthe, who was boss in the final lap. But as I'm watching it, man, I see these like lap times popping up in this I guess what is the third lap of an outdoor mile from basically 8:09 through to 12:09. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is going to be really quick. And when I saw that he got to the bell, it must have been 45, in about 52, was it 250 point or 251 low? I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. And when you watch back on the footage, the way that he just steamed around that final like 600 meters was pretty freaking cool.
It was incredible.
Yeah. So moving forward in this season, like it was kind of funny. We had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. We were like, will Cole Hocker ever win a 1500 meter race again in his life? And we thought that maybe there was a possibility because he was such a good racer who typically tended to peak for these big events that might not be the case. Well, I think this counts as blowing that out of the water now. What does this mean moving forward for the rest of the season for him? The American mile record is held by Nagoose at just under 3:44. Also, the American 1500 meter record, does he hold that? No, Leggett holds that, doesn't he? 3:27.34. Do you think those could be? There's no reason why they would not be on the horizon for this guy based on what we've seen now.
I agree.
I think the only question might be, we do know that indoor season has taken a slightly different priority. It is more important, and athletes are getting more in shape for it. And obviously, we'll talk about that with Keely Hodgkinson a little bit later. Who knows? But right now, things are definitely trending as high as they ever have for Cole Hocker.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, and I'm sorry, I don't know, I hope I'm not just talking over the top of you.
You're good. I
would just say like how impressed I am, and we had this discussion with PC. Again, touch on that at the end. Great PC, who guest on the show about a month and a half ago. I'm just so impressed at how Cole Hocker structured his career. Right, you have to work at being multifaceted, and I think he's done it the right way. Where he's got this great background of NCAA racing. Right, so the guy knows how to win. We go back to 2020, 2021. He won like the NCAA title with that great battle with Nagoose, 3:35. But I remember having a look at the splits at the time and comparing them to some of the great performances, some even world championship level winning performances of the past. Morselli in '96, very very comparable splits. So it showed that he could, perform extremely well, run really well off intermediate times closer to 2 minutes at 800, not just going out extremely hard. So he's learned his racecraft in almost like the first half of his career. And now he's adding in the ability to run fast, which, again, we can talk about this in a little bit. Maybe this is something that some of the young athletes out there, particularly the ones who are rising to prominence extremely quickly, might be missing out on, that might be really important if they want to be as successful as a Cole Hocker moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's him or a combination, him and his advisors, when he ran the 5,000 at the US trials the year he won the Olympics, after being successful with the 1,500, a little part of me thought, what's he sort of mucking around with this? Because at that point, he wasn't really that good at the 5,000. He certainly wasn't a global contender. I know he won the US champs, but that was a very slow race. I think that focus on that 5K strength, which was demonstrated by winning that US trials and was perhaps a sign of things to come. And the way he structured his season last year by not focusing on Grand Slam track. I mean, he's pretty hopeless in Grand Slam track
by
compared
his own
to
admission.
By his own admission.
Yeah.
So he's not fallen prey to modernization entirely in terms of being sharp all year round.
Right.
I think that is showing through now that he hasn't lost anything. In fact, I think he's gained in terms of his aerobic profile. He was able to drop down to the mile and hammer out that 3:45.9, but you can just tell he's strong. Like you saw that in the World Champs in the 5,000 last year. He's really, really strong, and he's got the kick. So, I mean, but this is a guy too that when he's younger did a lot of cross country, was always a distance runner and was running 146. Was it 146 low? I believe at high school. So, I mean, that toolkit, and he's obviously tough and he's smart and he's mature. He doesn't, like I said, that the fact he didn't throw his toys and let it affect him when he botched that, which he did, that 1500 at the World Champs. That boded incredibly well for his future when he was able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what more can we say about the guy? He is definitely number one, I think, middle distance runner is certainly in the world right now. And yeah, running world indoors, I mean, be difficult to bet against him on that one. And we'll see what happens rest of the season. Actually, we've got a good question, but that comes up, that mailbag question, but this one comes up at the end. Otherwise, other events on at this particular meet. Did you check out the 3K? Nico Young beats a pretty solid field. Shows a slightly different or an ever-evolving dimension to his running with a big last 200 meters, 26:06 in a 7:33 race. This is not a 26 flat in a crappy 8+ minute race or 14 minute plus 5K race. Nico Young's looking pretty good.
Very good.
Yeah. And boding well.
I've always been a big Nico Young advocate. I think he's awesome.
Yeah. And of course, we can't talk about this meet without Cooper Lutkenhouse. Make sure I get the T and the K around the right way. 1:44.03 world indoor junior record. Man, that guy just keeps rolling too.
I'm more bullish, not that I was even negative or bearish. I'm increasingly bullish about Lutkenhouse, watching him. It wasn't a flash in the pan, that trials, the way he runs. He's a beautiful mover, and he runs with great poise and maturity. He just clicks off those 200 splits. He's awesome. Really enjoy watching him.
But here's a good critical question. He obviously is not going to run NCAA. He's already turned pro. He's another of these young studs that have just had everything his own way in terms of like winning races coming up through the age groups. Almost like it's a blessing in one way because you get yourself noticed, and in his case, probably that certainly helped him sign an extremely large professional deal. I'm sure, but a bit of a curse in the other way that you don't get this. You don't get even any kind of race practice of losing as a kid and getting beaten, and even just learning to win races when you are clearly the best athlete is still valuable, right?
He did get smashed at the World Champs, though.
I know, but that's almost like that's kind of like the end. The end situation where you don't want to get smashed. It's almost like you need to get that practice in these kind of races, so you turn up there. Do you think that'll be a hindrance for him moving forwards? I mean, he is going to get in these pro meets now, so
I think
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Sam Ruthe, 3:52.26 in that race. What were your thoughts on his run? I mean, it's still crazy, isn't it? Because we're talking about a 16-year-old still running a 3:52 mile. If he hadn't run 3:48 in Boston, this would have been seen as just another otherworldly performance by him. But I think the general consensus is good learning experience for him. I mean, ran a horribly inefficient first 1,000 meters in this one. Tried to get on the rail. Was doing the old classic Peter Snell that let me into Vincent Ciardi, who was well within his rights to be like, fuck off. This is a pro race. Good learning experience for Sam. Anything else that you saw there?
Yeah, I think this is the downside of how much tension, hoopla there is around him. I mean, watching that race, I think every time he runs, it's just like his form compared to Hocker. He's like a sort of El Garouge in the making. He's so smooth. He's only 16 years old. He looked for the first ever time nervous on the start line, and perhaps I remember seeing a thing about Lance Armstrong back in the day, how he always looked so confident on the start line. It reminded me of how confident Bolt looked on the start line. These guys knew that if they got there and they were fit and healthy, they're going to win, and they must have been quite relaxing. He, in all his other races, he's always looked so relaxed and calm, and then empathize because a huge amount of attention was on him. CNN was doing articles about him, for God's sake, and videos. So massive attention, and he was coming against the current Olympic champion.
Yeah,
and he looked more stressed, more nervous. He ran like he was more stressed and more nervous, and the fact he underperformed compared to his 3:48, but still ran 3:52, and he's 16, and he didn't. He'll know this himself. Ben and Craig will know he underperformed. Like at the end, I think everyone's prone to that. Even athletes like the caliber of Sam Ruthe, where he kind of like unconsciously kind of threw it away a bit. The last sort of 200, I think if he'd been battling with, say, Sam Tanner for the New Zealand national title, he perhaps would have still run 3:50.8 or something. But I think he was. I think he was awesome. But this is a consequence of having such a big spotlight on him, and like the sort of muted media response, and that's why we do the track stitch, because I think we need to give a bit more nuance to what's actually going on out there. Like all the media articles, they sort of didn't know what to say, so they sort of gloss around the fact that it was a disappointing run. I mean, it really was a disappointing run, but you can say that without appearing to condemn the athlete or his squad, because he's just an absolute freak. He's incredible.
I'm gonna throw out a theory, because this is what we do on the Track Stitch, where we've got the inside people's theories here on this one. And see if you agree with it or not. What I think maybe caught out Sam a little bit is there was so much attention on him in this matchup versus Cole Hocker, right? We know that for a fact prior to, there was our favorite track and field website, letsrun.com, the famous message board there, massive thread dedicated Cole Hocker versus Sam Ruthe, who's going to win. And honestly, I'd say, even though the general consensus, the overwhelming consensus was Cole Hocker, there was definitely posters on there. So these are just fans of the sport out there who were making a case that Sam Ruthe could actually beat the Olympic champion at the age of 16. Very, very difficult to not even sort of subconsciously know that this chatter is going on around you. And he would have known that Hocker is the main guy here. And I tell you what I think happened. I think he just was unprepared for the other guys in the race. I think he was unprepared for the level of guys like Cooper Tier and Vincent Ciati and all these other guys who in their own rights are damn good runners too. They may not have as much talent as him, but Cooper Tier, for example, he's a sub 350 miler, right? If he isn't, he's run 350 low, but he's a former US 1500 meter champion. So this guy is I know we have our thoughts on Tier and, unfortunately how he's sort of just been lost in the shuffle of these great talents, because he's a very good talent in his own right. But again, this is not a criticism of Sam, right? Because I can completely understand how when you're going into a race against Cole Hocker, you're like, Hocker's the guy I need to focus on. And as soon as that gun went off, man, it was like a pro-level race, the likes that he hadn't experienced before. And I think that when you get rattled early like that, very, very different to the BU race where, he was clearly the best guy in the field. Peter Sisk was the next guy who was happy to take out the pace, and it was a very clean and easy run on a very good track for Sam. But I think that this was just a situation of a real stark reality, and it's kind of like we talk about it in rugby all the time. Like, you see some of those games where, like with the English beat the All Blacks once every 5 years, and it always happens because they come out in the first 15 minutes, punch the All Blacks in the mouth when they're not really expecting it, and then just things kind of crumble from there. That's kind of the feeling that I got from this race. So it's only a positive learning experience for him moving forward, and the more races that he gets like this, the better off he's going to be when he's starting in them.
I partially agree. Well, no, I wholly agree with you. But I think the reality is, in my view, my humble opinion, is a more complex, nuanced set of circumstances. And so what I think actually happened is Cole Hocker, there's a number of factors. Cole Hocker turned up. First of all, was your point about the spotlight and making it just, there was only a two-horse race. Secondly, Cole Hocker turned out to be in much better shape than you or I or anyone else thought he was in terms of time trialing, which made the level ratcheted up a lot higher, because every other year Hocker was only really at best around the level that Sam Ruthe ran in Boston.
True.
So that happened. Second, the third factor, yes, Pierre Ciardi, and that they're good athletes and they are experienced pros, and they got in his way, so to speak, on the rail, and that flustered him, because all of a sudden he had enough to worry about with trying to beat, whether he could or not. We even thought he possibly could, because he possibly could have been off his game. So all of a sudden he's going, I can't even get to this guy. He's running really quick, and these guys are now impeding where I sort of rightfully thought I was going to slot in. Well, number one, you got no rights to slot in anywhere. Remember, he was trying to kind of motion like he was going to go in. Like,
Snell.
Off, you're not going in. You're not going in. So that's fine, but he's a kid, right? Positive out of it, which I love, is the guy has the mindset of a winner, of a champion, and perhaps you could say it's a bit arrogant or whatever, but he thought, nah, I'm slotting in with this guy. That's my target. And you know what? He is a lot better than those guys. He's already arguably better than those guys. So I think it's not a bad thing. It reminds me of an incident in 2015. Genzebe Dibaba was going for the world record in the 1500, and they set up two paces. I remember you and I talked about this at the time. They set up a pacer for Genzebe, and they set up a pacer for the Jenny Simpson group, let's call it. That's the 4 minute, 3:57, whatever. And I believe it was in the record, when Genzebe ran the record, Sifan Hassan went with the pacer group, and even at that point, I think she ran a PB out of it, but she blew up something chronic the last 250. And then they interviewed her, and they said, "Why'd you go with that pace, considering it was so much faster?" And she said, "I'm an athlete, and athletes race to win, and I'm not going to run already give up by the time I." So I think it's a really good thing, and it just needs to be managed and understood for what it was. In terms of that, those things can happen to you, but I think very few of us have that mentality, and that's what's made him great in the first place. So I think overall it was a great experience for him. Totally. I think because it's totally without consequence. He gets in there and he learns all that stuff before, when it's really, let's be honest, inconsequential in terms of the actual runway of his career. So I thought it was all very good stuff.
Yeah, and just talking about like the inefficiencies and the pace, I made a note of this one because it's really, I think this is worth mentioning. So Cole Hocker and the splits in this one, again, such awesome execution. Obviously, Wavelight makes this so much easier than back in the day. He was 28.5 for the first 200, so almost out perfectly, 28.2. But listen to this, from 409 meters to 1,009, his 200-meter splits for that 600-meter segment, 28.7, 28.8, 28.8. Like, it was just like truly, I don't have my Brett the Hitman Hart card here, or else I would throw it at the screen again. But that is excellence of execution, because that sets him up to run those final three splits progressively faster, 28.1, 27.5, 27.3. So, whereas poor old Sam was messing around trying to find position, on the rail and surging to get ahead of Cooper and all this kind of stuff, Cole Hocker's just out there using the lights, just ticking it off and almost executing a perfect mile, which, by the way, I had more than one person mention to me that if he'd been running at BU on the track surface there, that this might have been under Jakob's world record of 3:45.00 or 01.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty awesome performance. Hey, so quick mailbag questions came in about this one. Pretty good ones. I'll hit you with this one. Who is more likely?
Just before we,
yeah.
Sorry, it was just to like show you how do I put it? Just show you how malleable, and I really can't. I'll just say it the long-winded way because I can't use
Is this fire up corner, by the way? An early fire up corner?
No, not at all. I just can't. I can't put it. I can't. I don't have a clever shortcut to express this. But Cole Hocker, excellence of execution card. The Brett. I'm not Hitman Heart. So he gets the Hitman Heart card. Perfect. Can't argue with it. You just gave me the numbers. But this is a guy who, as the Olympic champion, got himself into such a ridiculously incompetent position that he had to barge his way through in the semis at the World Champs and lost the chance to win, to be the first global back-to-back Olympic world champ since forever.
Yeah.
And he won the 5, which is his weaker event. So it shows he probably, let's be honest, must have been the big favourite, particularly in a race the way that Isaac Nutter won that race. So it just shows you that every one of these guys, he's out there doing the literally the perfect execution, and then but yet he ran like Sam Ruthe ran. In fact, I would say a lot worse in terms of how he positioned himself, and he's actually done it quite a few times, and he's used the fact he's so much better in terms of his array of skills to bust down doors and still get there. So
including his most famous win in Paris.
Most famous win. So it's a fine run thing, and it is incredibly easy to understand. To see how that happened with Sam. So it's just great he's getting in there so young and learning all that.
Yeah, I agree.
And he will learn.
Okay, so the mailbag question was this one. It's a good one. There's 2 parts to it, but the first main part is who is more likely to run an outdoor world record in 2026? Cooper Lupkenhaus in the 800 meters, Cole Hocker, 1500 mile, Nico Young in the 5K. They were the 3 winners from the fast running meet there in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Who is most likely to run an outdoor world record this year from those 3?
Cooper Lupkenhaus.
Oh, really?
And I'll tell you why. Because I don't believe...
I disagree on this one.
Yeah, I'm very emphatic.
Emphatic.
Because the question's not who is going to. The question's not who is more likely and do you believe they are going to do it. The question is who's more likely in a relative sense. Nico Young's not going to run 12:34 this year.
No.
I don't believe Cole Hocker can run 3:25.99.
But I also said the mile, 1500 mile. Because I don't believe he can run that either. But
I only thought we were comparing, like, for example, if you had the 880 yards, would it be, if there's a weaker record? I thought it was more in like the 8:15.
Oh, in the Olympic distances?
Yeah. Like if you include the mile, then 3:40. Nah, I'm still saying Lupkenhaus.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I think what it would take would be a freak occurrence, and we already know enough of what Hocker's capable of. And even if Hocker ran 3 similar to Nagusa and broke the US outdoor record 3:43 high, I think that was pretty impressive. I think the 3:26 is out of the question for Cole Hocker. He might run 3:26.8. I'm not saying he couldn't do that. But 3:5.99, I don't know. No. Lupkenhaus is the only one we actually don't know his true ceiling, and 140. What is it? 140.91. I mean, I don't think he's going to do that, but I think there's more unknown there too.
That's fair.
More unknown there, and that there's a potential in there that we don't know he can't do it with the others. I think we know that they can't do it.
I mean, my answer to that one is Cole Hocker in the mile, and I think it's just my formula is relatively simple. I think he's the best athlete out of those 3. And I think that he's the most developed as well. I still think there's a inherent benefit to being, of age, his age, he's 24 now, he's turning 25. This is like his peak athletic window, right, where he's at his best. I think he's the best athlete out of those three. And I think quite simply the mile world record is the weakest of all those three. And I think it really is. I think it's just another case of similar to the 3K.
Athlete, or he's in terms of his ability, or just in terms of what he's accomplished at the level he's at?
Both.
Really?
Yeah.
He's a better athlete than Cooper Lichtenhouse.
I think so.
142.
I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't mean Lichtenhouse won't eventually be, but right now, I think, I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Arguable. Yeah. Well, maybe it is, but that's certainly in my opinion. I think it's like he could get that mile record, and I'm with you, because I think that the chances of any one of those things happening is rather unlikely. But I think the most likely, at least for me, is Hocker in the mile, because that mile record is on the table. Say this every time. It's not the only indicator, but it is pretty good at making comparisons. And I also look at, what Jakob and Naguse did when they broke 344 there, 2 years ago. That was right at the end of the season, kind of an afternoon. It was almost like a dual meet setup. Remember, Jakob ran the 3K the next day. It was, afternoon meet at Hayward, not ideal conditions. I just think that Cole Hocker is extremely motivated this year to run some performances, and I don't think he's going to do it at Prefontaine. That's never the right. I hope they put on a good mile somewhere in Europe this year. I'd love to see the mile go back to like Zurich. We haven't seen a mile in Zurich forever. In fact, any one of those really big meets, they used to have them all the time in Zurich or Brussels or where else. Berlin was always like a great spot for the mile. But I could see that. Lichtenhouse's chance over the 800, I agree with you, and with this respect, where I see that point, it's a good point that you make. The 800, it's a short distance, and we know that the way that Lichtenhouse executes his 800s, running very, very evenly, is probably the future of whoever's going to break that record. So, yeah.
I think I didn't really follow him that closely. I knew who he was. I knew he ran 142, but in terms of I watch him run in the pack at the US trials, and I watched this heat semi-final, but indoors, like when you get to sort of watch him just flowing along on his own, he's one of the best athletes or movers or prospects I've ever seen. He's so exciting to watch, and I love how measured he is, and he looks like he's just cruising when he's like throwing like 50, 51. He looks like he's jogging, which is always the sign of a real class athlete. So
yeah. Okay, well, since you answered CL on that one, here's the second part of the question just for you. Who's more likely to run the world record then in the 800 this year outdoors, Cooper Lichtenhouse or Josh Hoey? Because I'll tell you this, our good friend Robert Johnson at Let'sRun.com, he said on their podcast Friday, I think, that Hoey will never beat Cooper Lichtenhouse again. Which is a classic Rojo comment, but a big one. But yeah, who do you think is more likely to run the outdoor world record?
I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. But I know why before I condemn him.
It's a good hot take.
It's a good hot take, and it's designed to create headlines. And love Let's Run. I'm on there every day, so I'm not like poo-hooing them, but I think, I see where the logic comes from to make something an outrageous claim like that, but to say never, I mean, he's just the world indoor record, Kip Taylor's record.
It's such a good take.
Yeah, but I do believe that Cooper Lichtenhouse is a much more talented runner, and I do believe that when he gets a bit stronger and develops more, I think he'll handle him, the major championships, and I think he's a better athlete.
Yeah.
Josh Hoey. But Josh Hoey's the current Diamond League winner.
Yeah.
He was 142.01. He was one of the best 800-meter runners in the world last year. And
just
a lot of
Kip Keita's indoor
broke Kip Keita's indoor mark. Didn't make the US team. A lot of decorated athletes have missed national teams. Daniel Coleman in 1996 went on to break world records. Josh Hoey's awesome. So to say he'll never beat him again, the guy's only 16, is kind of a bit crazy. But
but anyway, so the world record, if it was going to happen, Lichtenhouse or Hoey this year, I think it's still Josh, right?
It's got to be Josh. I mean,
And he's fired up to do it, and I think that's a big thing. You've got to have. It was like Kip Keita going into that 1997 season. I know this for a fact. It was like he was all in on it. It's all he wanted to do. I think when you've got to go up, when you're going after a mark that's that difficult, it's just got. It's not something that just you turn up at the start line somewhere and you're like, oh, I feel quite good today. I might have a shot at the world record. It's like something that has to be, permeating and percolating for a long time. So. Do you agree with that one? Sorry, I caught you on a call.
That's right. You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving forwards, but staying on the 800-meter discipline. This one kind of snuck up on us a bit. I thought it was this weekend. So did Kerr. Did you as well? I thought it was going to be a classic one. Keely Hodgkinson. This is a great one because we had this super in-depth discussion on Femke Bowl that then also went onto the women's world record of the 800. And we had a bit of a viewer comment, not happy with our somewhat bearishness on Femke Bowl, but we always love and cherish the viewer comments on that one there. Had a viewer write in on the comments talking about Femke's VO2 max and how it was measured extremely high, and this should point to, hey, all I would say is love those comments, keep firing them in at us. We never profess to be 100% right. It's all just opinion, so who knows? And the great thing is we're going to find out. But Keely Hodgkinson, 154.87 in live in, smashes the world record of Jolanda Keplak, and also the second mark that she was behind, because she was third on the all-time list coming in, was from one of our favourites, Stephanie Graf, not the tennis player, the Austrian 800-meter runner. Before we talk about this one, do you know the story about this one from the European Indoors in 2002? Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, go for it.
So there's a very famous story that happened from the European Indoors in 2002. This is where Jolanda Keplak broke the world record in this particular race. It was European Indoors, and Stephanie Graf was second. It was in Vienna, Austria, and she was Austrian, so she was like the hometown kind of hero in this one. She finished only 2/100ths of a second behind, so she lost the European title to Jolanda Keplak, who then ultimately got caught for drugs. But, the heartbreak of not getting this done in front of your home crowd. Anyway, the funny backstory to this one is that Jolanda Keplak's manager was an agent called Robert Wagner, right? And he was Austrian. So there was already this kind of interesting dynamic there. And Robert Wagner's an interesting character. He was involved with one of his athletes, Kelly White. I'm not sure if they were married or they were publicly, she was also married to Boris Henry, the German javelin thrower, point in time. She was world champion in 2003 in 100 meters in Paris and then got nixed for naughty vitamins. Anyway, what happens is after the race, right, Austrian television, live on TV, interviews Stephanie Graf about this race, and she on live TV basically says, I'm happy to run the time, but I'm disappointed to lose. I'm disappointed to lose to a doper. Right, so she called out Keplak for cheating before she'd even been caught, and also one that's having an affair with her agent, who was Robert Wagner, right, who at the time was married to somebody else and had kids or something like this. And so she outed her on live Austrian TV, or them both, as having kind of an affair and her getting fed drugs, like just an absolute. And this is a story that not a lot of people know. I know it because not only was I told it, I ended up actually seeing the footage by my agent at the time, who was German girl or German woman, and yeah, pretty classic stuff there.
So the footage, do you see a sex tape?
No, of Graf making this claim, and hey, she was at least right on half of it because Keplak did actually get caught. But hey, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. Wow, what's your take on this performance? You are extremely, and you've always been extremely bullish on the prospects of Keely Hodgkinson, especially in terms of running really quick. What does this mean for her?
Yeah, I mean, I think it points to 153x. I don't know how much under 154. Yeah, I was thinking. You and I talked yesterday about you gave all the splits and how tough it is for the woman to, it's it's an event which requires so much physical strength, and that's obviously women lack the testosterone of men. So testosterone is such a powerful drug for female athletes, and she is strong. She's looking strong, and I think that she's got, for all the Femkes sycophants out there, go and look at how Keely ran that race and how strong she is, and how she still really struggled to run much quicker than, like you said, 29s for the last 600. So you've got a woman who's been doing it her whole life. I don't mean to be emotive about this, but it's sort of somewhat laughable to me that people think that a 400 hurdler is going to come in and show that level of strength when someone who's been preparing for it their whole life, who's the Olympic champion, actually is quite still weak on that vector, if you're looking at it in absolute terms, taking out the male-female thing.
Yeah.
So she's the one to do it. Couple of observations since we talked. I went and watched the race a few more times. Also saw Georgia Hunter-Bell run the 1500. Whatever they did in South Africa this year, I'm not implying anything sinister, but the way they prepared, both those women look awesome. They look, Hunter-Bell, I know she hasn't run real quick yet, but this time last year she was sort of sometimes winning, sometimes losing, like sort of in the 15s or 8s. And Hunter-Bell has just looked like an absolute boss. She's looked like a Faith Kipyegon against those women. She's just ran with them and just blown them away. She doesn't even break into a sweat. She's looking at the big screen, like just cruising up the home straight. Keely similarly looked really, really strong. She looked muscular. She looked a little bit, perhaps she missed training last year, a little bit overweight.
Well, injured,
injured, exactly. So she looked really strong, and I think it bodes really well. I will slightly check my enthusiasm for the sub 154 in one regard, though. I remembered this morning driving into work to do this podcast that she often does come out and run very quick in her first either indoor or outdoor race, and then sometimes is a little bit, so maybe there's something in how they're preparing her that they could learn, in terms of she often comes out and has a bolter, and then she'll come out next week and say run a second slower, and kind of get a little bit worse, and then have a championship. And so I think perhaps that's something for her camp to think about. But
so interesting that you mentioned the South African training camp, because I was having coffee with a friend of mine in Portland last week. Showed me some really cool stuff of their training group, the M11 training group in South Africa training. And and what I saw was so Georgia Hunter-Bell and Keely, they both train all the time with guys, and they do specific, and this has to be planned, where like they'll do stuff where to start off a particular rep, whether if they're running a 600 or a 500 or something, they'll actually line them all up so they don't kind of go jogging into a rep, right? They'll line them up on a line, 7, 8, 9 athletes, Keely, Georgia Hunter-Bell, and the group of other guys. And these are good athletes too. These are guys that are ranging from, say, 144, 800 meter level through to 150 level. And they'll start the reps like it was the start of a race, right? So what they're doing is that they're learning to kind of get position off the line. They're learning to have to accelerate maybe a little bit quicker than they would like to get position. And they're bumping elbows and getting contact. And like, to your point of what they're doing in South Africa must be working, like that stuff to me is from Trevor Painter and that group is just really, really clever kind of stuff.
Did he coach his wife during her career?
I'm not sure, maybe.
Even if he didn't actually formally, officially coach her, being around it
totally
for 20 years or 15 years, however long. And Jenny Meadows was a star.
Yeah,
she was a star. She was right up there in all those, in most of those. So, and in a tough era in terms of drug testing and stuff. So, and so they would imagine how much they would have learned what worked and what didn't.
Yep.
There's the period of adapting to the peculiarities of these two athletes. So yeah, good on them. It's exciting every time either of them takes the start line. They're great athletes.
When I saw the footage of that stuff, I was like, man, that's why. And just talking about the viewer that wrote in, he was upset about our bearish view on Femke. This is just the kind of stuff that I know that Femke right now isn't doing, because again, I've got some friends in the game that coaches as well that sort of give a little bit of inside intel every now and then. And a lot of her work at the moment is still very much, single rep, time trial, or pace base. She's not getting in there and mixing it up, and that's exactly what she needs to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress on Femke. This is about Keely. The splits in this one, Shano, it's interesting. We were talking about like almost this female formula to the 800 that we kind of see, which is the fast 200 meters and then a large differential between that opening 2 and the remaining 3 splits. We saw it again yesterday, or a couple of days ago with Keely. Opening 200, 26.80, 29.2 for the next split, 29.05 and 29.81. So, I mean, and this was when we first had our conversation on this one, and I wanted to get your take on what you thought was going to happen moving forward, and you were very bullish on her. It's not that I wanted to like hit you with the stats immediately, but I did a little bit of background because I'm so interested in the execution of these races, the difference between the men and the women, right? And I went back and I sort of had a look at kind of her best 3 performances, right? And are there some similarities that we're seeing that she needs to potentially improve on? So this was one of her 3 lifetime best performances. Her PR is 154.61 from London 24. She ran 154.74 in Silesia, that big comeback race last year, and then 154.87 in this one to break the world indoor record. And I noticed this pattern of kind of, this opening 200 meter split is so much faster than the rest of the other splits, the other 200 meter checkpoint splits, and this varies dramatically to what the top men are now doing. So, what we're typically seeing here from Keely is about 1.5 to 2 seconds between that opening 200 meter split and those final 3 200 meter splits. And just to give a bit of context to this one, I took 3 performances just of recent memory. One that happened actually within the last week. So Peter Bowl ran 143.89 in Perth in his first race of the season. I know that him and his coach, Justin Rinaldi, who we know quite well, fan and friend of the podcast here on the Track Stitch, he's been working with Peter on this concept of really even-paced running. So listen to Peter Bowl's splits from this one, 25.2, 26.4, 26.1, 26.2. So that opening 200 to the next best split was only 0.9 of a second. Wanyoni, 2024, when he ran 141.11, this is the fastest time that we've seen in the last, since Rhodesia broke the world record. 24.5 for the first 200, 25.5, 25.4, 25.7. So exactly the same again. That opening 200 to his next best split, 0.9 seconds. These are all half a second and change different to what Keely is doing in the 800, and it was in her distances on the women's side. And same with Arop, 141.20 in Paris. He famously went 25.2, 25.9, 25.9, 25.2. So his opening 200 to next best split was 0.7 seconds. So if we're looking at how Keely really takes this time down, I think in the beginning, I'm pretty sure I've kind of cracked the code on this one, that this opening 200 has got to be much, much more measured from her, because the faster that she's going in these performances and the faster that she's getting to 600 meters because of the opening speed is actually compromising her in the final parts of these races.
I think it can only, again, partially.
That's very geeky. I'm sorry to hit you with that one.
No, it's good. It's good. I think that I'm asking a question more than telling you. Is it? There's nuance though, right? Like
Totally.
it can only be a little bit slower, because the woman, even when they are more even in championship, they never run quicker because they're more even. So I think there's a real subtlety to it. It might need to be 27.1 as opposed to 26.8.
Yeah. Well,
they go out real even. The woman, maybe it's just the way they are built. They just don't tend to come off the pace very well.
No. And I think what it is, it's an issue of anaerobic capacity past the threshold point. And I think that what you see with the men is they can kind of tap past that threshold point and it doesn't really, the sponge, so to speak, or whatever metaphor you want to give it, the cup, it's not really soaking up, too much damage, right? And if it does, they're able to kind of almost recover on the fly a little bit during these races. It doesn't appear that just with the physiology of women, that this 800-meter discipline, it just seems like the opening 200-meter speed and the opening stages of the race, if they get it wrong, it really, really hurts them in the final 200, 300 of the race. And probably if you want the best example of that, I would say go back and watch the 2025 World Final with Keely and Mary Moira, and how much energy that Keely spent in the first 600 meters trying to just edge in front of Mary Moira, who was running on the outside of lane 1 against her. And that was the primary reason that O'Dea and Georgia Hunter Bell rolled her in the final 200 in that one.
I mean, another way to paint the picture is those women who have been shown to have used drugs that ran 153, 154 from the Stasi days. The fact they were able to weather that pace a lot better. Given the testosterone and that physical strength is such a component in the women's in the 800.
So and we're talking about this. There's two kind of things two sort of barriers I think with Keely that are really, really interesting to look at. One is the world record 153.28. The other one is just 154. I said this to you the other day by text. I think we've also got to keep in context that Keely probably right now is operating basically at an all-time world record level, because when you look at the performances that are ahead of her on the all-time list, you've got Kratochvilova at the world record 153.28. Ola Zarenko, the only other woman to have run under 154 from the Soviet bloc, ran that time back in 1980. I don't think it's not too much of a stretch to say that there may have been something going on there too. Then, of course, we had this unfortunate era in women's 800-meter running with respect to, the whole DSD, intersex, Caster Semenya, Pamela Gelimo, et cetera, And I said to you that maybe potentially if you want to put an asterisk by all those performances, the only other performance left might have been AFQ, Anna Fidelia Kiro at 154.44. That might be the real world record. But then again, that performance was also set back in 1989, kind of, and so we don't like talking about it too much on the pod, but who knows with that performance. So she may already actually be at that world record level. How much more scope is there? Now, you think she can go under 154?
There's a lot, because, I think Georgia Hunter Bell 154.91, was it, or 92?
Yeah.
Missed a lot of her 20s, did a lot of the aerobic sort of duathlon stuff, which obviously helped her. But no disrespect to Georgia Hunter Bell, she's one of my favorite athletes. She's awesome, but she, to think that she can run 154.9, and to think of Keely's toolkit for the 800, whereas Hunter Bell's more your 815, and she does well in the championships because she's strong. And to do well in a championship 800, you need to be very strong aerobically to deal with the rounds. I think Keely, it's not a stretch for me to think that she can run 0.9 quicker than her training partner, she's more of the pure 800 type. Also, and you know this yourself, Jason, it's very rare to go from, say, 155.5 to 155.8 to I'll start again. It's very rare to go from consistently running, say, 155.8 or 155.7, like level she used to be at when Moo was around, to say 153.9.
Yeah.
So what usually happens is you run a bunch of 155 highs, and then you have your outlier at, say, 154.6, and then you struggle around 155 high, 156 low for most of your Diamond League races. What she's now doing, both outdoors and indoors, she ran quite poorly, let's be honest, in the World Champs final for reasons you just explained, is to consolidate around that level, which previously was your PR level.
Agree.
And that's the launch point then, once your body's used to all that. And I just think from what I'm seeing from her in terms of how she ran in that race, like the training anecdotal stories you just gave us from South Africa, watching Hunter Bell's level in the 15, I think it's there. to run under. And let's be honest, if like for reasons you just explained about those records and how perhaps they are not legitimate in terms of the real level of the world record, and even Kero's, I mean, Cuba has a slightly checkered past as well, in terms of their anti-doping. So if she ran 154.2, I mean, I wouldn't think it was a failure. I'd shoot for the 153, but I'd be like, hats off, that's awesome. Do I think she can actually do it? Yeah, I do. But I like to be positive about these things.
No, I mean, and full disclosure, I'm totally with you too. I think the world record is not possible. There's nothing that I see.
It's too doped.
Yeah, it's too doped. Exactly. She, obviously when you look at Kredic-Villova, and I watched the footage about an hour before we came on air.
You don't even need to watch the footage, just look at her.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But just looking at Jarmila in that one and the splits that she ran, I think it was 56.83 at the bell. So she came home and it was like 56.8, 56.4. Yeah, and I mean, again, that was almost like, pubescent teen strength. That was the kind of race that I could have run back when I was 16 or 17,
They should just, I don't know why they don't expunge it. I mean, they've come out through all their government investigations, and did she admit it, or the names all came up? I mean, it's clear what's going on.
It is a bummer.
It's a bit silly.
But then the problem is you get her out of the books, and then it's like you go to Olazarenko at 153.4, and then you got to go through the whole rigmarole there. And even if you get those two out of the books, then you head into the Pamela Gelimo, Casta Semenya era. So it's a bit of a cluster F, unfortunately. But yeah, I think the world record is just out of the question because I don't see enough evidence. Knowing how even she would have to be in these splits, the formula I'm absolutely convinced on. I did a quick bit of math here. She would have to be about 27.5 for the first 200, and then probably 28.5 for the remaining 200s there, and that gives you that kind of 1 second differential where she's not going out too hard. But even that, Shano, that's a 56 first lap, and I
don't care about that quote world record. It's a handle put on something. It's a social construct that we've constructed to say that's the fastest time a woman, an athlete, of a certain category has run an event. And if the assumptions that lead to that categorization are, untrue, or we know that person has certainly doped, then how can that be a target?
Yeah, you've gone all existential with the social construct. But I do agree with you.
You've gone, okay, this organization's ratified this performance, and they refuse to expunge it, even though they know that person took drugs.
I know.
So it's now, can she get the world record? World record for what?
Yeah,
the athletes
I know.
Who are the products of state-sponsored doping programs. It's and you just looked at her and the state of the whole management of it all. It's like Flojo's records. It's the same thing. So I just, in my head, I never sort of think, can she break the world record? But I'd love to see a 153 from an athlete that we would like to believe is a clean athlete.
100%.
Wow, a woman ran 150. Us, we were 800 meter runners to varying levels of ability and performance ourselves. And to think that a woman with their disadvantages in terms of physical disadvantage, physiology, to run a 153 would be cool. To see a woman run 153.
I think so too, and that's what I'm looking forward to as well. I'm hoping that that's what they're building to. I don't know if they're building towards 153.28. I hope they're building towards 154 flat because I think they can do it. The splits I have in my mind for this one, I think a high 27 opener, right, and I think getting to that about 56.5 for the first lap, but it's got to be a 56.5 really, really even. And this is the only downfall. This is the same issue that the men face at the moment too. Is in these competitive races, like on a Diamond League, it's going to be very difficult for her to run so composed or so slowly in the opening 200 meters and establish the right position. So I really think we're getting into this situation where, particularly on the men's side and for Keely looking at 154, that maybe they have to be looking at kind of like these a lower key meet where it's similar to what we saw Femke run in that indoor 800, where she was clearly the best runner in the field. Nobody was going to get in her way, and that's how I think that we're going to get down there. But I do agree with you. I think that Keely can absolutely get down into the low 154s, and then when she's at that level, the difference between, say, running 153.9x and 154.0x could just be on the day, how she's feeling, little minutia. Yep. Is the track good?
Yeah,
all those sorts of things. A mailbag question, somewhat related, so I attached it onto this topic. Came in this one for you too, Shano. Going back to Tokyo 2021 Olympic 800 meter final, obviously won by Athing Mu. Keely Hodgkinson got second. If that result was reversed, are the careers of Mu and Keely different? They obviously are different, but how much different? Does Keely Hodgkinson suffer from winning so young as it appears Athing Mu might have?
Say that again. Does it appear?
If basically we swapped the results from 2021, is like, I think the question is aiming at this. We know that it's very, very difficult in the sport when you reach the pinnacle at a young age to be able to carry on. I mean, it's just difficult at any age. We saw it with all those great 1500 runners, Morselli, LG, Neil Schumann in the 800. I think we've spoken about that before. When he won the 800 at a young age, he crested the mountain. If Keely Hodgkinson had done that in 2021 and Athing Mu had actually got second, would Mu, have remained motivated to stay in the sport longer than she appears to have had? And would Keely Hodgkinson maybe not be as motivated as we're seeing now?
Nah, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, I think you look at the athletes, Keely's still great now and she's won the Olympics. I think she probably partied a little bit like a normal, natural young lady and enjoyed a bit of fame. It's not often a track athlete gets famous. She's got the good looks and she's the British press are pretty crazy. But she looked like
darlings.
Yeah, they love the darlings, and she's one of their darlings. And then she was famous from a young age, got it done, and then now looks like she's bunkered down and she's in good form again. Yeah, I mean, even to get second the way she did, and the fame that she had from the British are useless. Like, they invented everything, like cricket and rugby and that, and now they most suck at it. Like, I love rubbing it into our old mate Johnny Rescue that the British. So to get second, with that storied history of track and field, made her a Fleet Street target.
Totally.
And I think that alone was a lot of pressure. I think with Athing Mu, I think that was just always going to be Athing Mu's trajectory. She was going to. Her star was going to shine brightly and then disappear, and that's not a criticism. No. One slight tweak on all this is that I was just thinking about it yesterday, actually, because I saw this thing on Let's Run about who had the better career out of the two of them, and I thought to myself, there's a lot of recency bias here with Keely. Mo's still got an Olympic and a world title.
That's true.
So she won when she was 19. She was pretty much unbeatable in a way that Keely's never been.
Yeah.
I'd just be quick to just say, it's definitely Keely, because at the moment Keely's the it girl.
Yeah.
We're also, as humans, we love building people up, and then we love, like you see a lot of the comments around like Jakob now, like we love crushing them down. But if you're either Athing Mu or say Jakob, if he is done, I mean, who gives a shit? It's just running. They got their whole lives in front of them. They've won the Olympic Games in their sport. They've, I'm sure, made plenty of money. They've had a bit of fame if that's what they're after. I don't know anything about Mu's personal situation. I understood she was married, but Jakob, for the extent I understand, has a nice wife and a child. So they've won the Olympics when they're like 20. Like back in the day, you won the Olympics like Peter Snell and Herb Elliott, then you went on and got on the rest of your life, and you didn't spend 20 years trying to like be on Instagram and be filmed and photographed and trying to.
Yeah,
because as you know, Jason, because you're a pro, it's quite a boring life, and you went and trained around the world, but that was your thing you did for a while.
I tried,
and before you did your professional career. So it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's lonely. It's boring a lot of the time.
Totally.
It's not that the training's boring. The training's fun, but then it's like you have to just rest up and you can't do too much. You certainly can't party, which, you know, is fun as a young person. So I don't think it's the end of the world for any of these people that win the Olympics and all these keyboard warriors going, oh, they're done and all this, and that's so disappointing. It's like, oh, who cares? You're not going to care when they're 60.
You know? No, and you don't owe no athlete owes any fan turning up just to satisfy their agendas. That's quite sad. But I'm sort of with you on this one. I do see a world and a logic where you say, hey, if Keely had won in 2021, you know, she would have been in a similar situation as a teenager, Olympic champion. Maybe, you know, certain things go on around her where she's just like, oh my God, you know, I've reached the pinnacle of the mountain. You know, not everybody's like Cole Hocker. We've talked about this quite a lot on, you know, previously on the pod. My buddy Jordo, who works at Nike, told me this about Hocker. He's just like, this guy is just different in respect where he's already crested the mountain, but it means nothing to him. He just wants more and more and more, and that's why he's so damn good. But on the other hand, yeah, we do have historical examples, you know, like Neil Schumann, a guy I raced against a couple of times. I don't know Nils very well, but I knew him, had a couple of conversations with him when I was based in Germany, saw him at meets, and he was the opposite, where like he got to the pinnacle of the mountain over 800 meters, obviously in Sydney 2000, and then it was just very, very difficult for him to stay in the game and motivated, because you are right, this is a lonely and tough existence. And I think that this is what people don't, you know, you mentioned Jakob, people don't take into account. It's not even going to be like the physical battle for him to come back, which is going to be tough enough as it is. It's also the mental toll, like when you've been away from the game. And when you know, here's a guy that's just been training so hard for so long. And I mentioned this last week, even for myself at my level, which was nowhere near those guys, you know, you can only dedicate yourself so much, and you think it's the one thing that you can control, where you're like, I'll always be able to stay motivated because it won't be my legs that, you know, my legs will give out before my mind does. But I actually think it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And so back to the Keely and Moo, I just think that, maybe I don't think it was ever meant to be for Athing Mu long term. I agree with you. I think she was just always destined to be a super, you know, bright, like the brightest of the bright, hot burning fires. And then, yeah.
Moo's I've got 0.0% doubt that Moo's the most talented 800 meter runner that's ever lived. Like, her, the low 49 400 is like an 18 or 19-year-old that she never even really lost 400 meter races. No, beautiful, graceful. You know, it's not often that a 400 meter runner of that level has the running form to run this, you know, gracefully at say 55, 56 pace. They often sort of shuffle a little bit, like Femke does a little bit. She's pretty good, but no, much better than most 400 meter runners. But Moo just looked like a distance runner, like a middle distance runner when she's running the 800. That 403, I think she was actually past her best by then, and that race was sort of a little bit, you know, funny the way it was run. I think she's probably a sub 4 minute 1500 meter runner at best. And this is all when she was relatively untrained. Like, I think Moo was the one who, if anyone could have run the world record, was Moo, not Keely. But I think Keely is a lot more well put together than people give her credit for. She looks like she might like enjoy a bit of partying and stuff, but I think she's determined. I think she must be pretty, and I don't know about book smart, but she's definitely worldly in terms of how she looks at her life. That's a lot as a young British person to have all that attention on you. I think her family looks like nice from what I've seen from social media. Not that I have social media anymore, but I remember seeing like her mum and her dad look very involved, but not over the top. They look very proud. Jenny Meadows and Trevor Payne look like great people. I think she's set up there. I think she's well put together to just continue. I don't know if I think winning that Olympic was a huge thing for her, and I think it probably would have exhausted her emotionally. I don't know if she's talk about Cole Hocker, don't know if she's a real perpetual winner, because she's been bridesmaid a lot. But she's in it, I think, for the long haul, at least, or the intermediate haul. as a top athlete, as an amazing athlete.
Yeah.
So to answer the question in a very long-winded way, no, I don't think it would have really mattered. I
agree with you.
I think it's more to do with someone's makeup and their environment. I don't think Moo, even if she hadn't won, I don't think Moo is going to all of a sudden go, I want to be around for a lot longer.
I agree. Yeah. All right. Close to wrapping up. Few other things just of note. We did the big breakdown last week. We talked about it here today a little bit. Femke in her debut. She was then going to go, I believe, an attempt at the world 600 meter record, injured. I don't know. It just seemed, we talked about how, and you even mentioned earlier on the pod today about some of the expectations. I think we are probably in the minority of this one, where a lot of people are extremely bullish on her prospects. We're maybe more on the bearish side, but not really. I think I would like to say we're just trying to weigh up more nuances, or as many nuances as possible. Does this mean anything too? Is it just coincidence that after this debut 800 she's maybe injured? I mean, it is a big difference. It is no matter what anybody says, you can measure your VO2 max, you can do all the workouts. There's no substitute for just having to absorb the work, and it is a change to go from running the 400 meter hurdles and the 400, which are sprint events, to running the 800. Femke's got a foot injury. It doesn't sound like it's serious, but does this point to some growing pains that maybe people aren't taking into account for her?
Yeah, I just think that anyone that believes in their heart of hearts and the hype around her hasn't really thought of it or the angles for more than 2 seconds, I mean, because when I first saw that she was switching to the 800, my gut feeling is it's a viable move, and I still believe that. And like our friend Rick James says, the way she comes on compared to the other at the end of a relay, whilst I don't agree in terms of the distinction between, say, a relay and non-lane, the reason he was giving us, the way she comes on the last 50 to 80 compared to the other 400 meter runners shows she's running those 400 flat times and hurdles times from a good degree of strength, and she does have lovely flowing form, and I believe her opener was very successful. So there's no reason she can't do it, but I always just point to, and I labor it by doing it again, SML in the 400 flat. Took her quite a few years, even though she is now arguably the world record holder in the 400 meters. So I just think she sticks at it. She can actually, as you said, Jason, if she could actually withstand and absorb the training and stick at it and learn her craft, give her 2 years. Now, is that within the window where she's still at a high enough level to overcome not only her event, but a new event to get her head around all that? I don't believe so. But
neither do I.
What do I know? So I just think there's there's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes in there.
We're just a couple of talking heads and shoulders on this one, just nattering on about the same stuff. But I will always come back to this. Just because you change events, it doesn't mean that, to use the old car metaphor, we're not winding back the clock here. The odometer doesn't go back to zero, okay? It's like you cannot have... She's had a long and very successful career where she clearly had to do a lot of work to get to that level in the 4 hurdles, right? She ran under 51 seconds. Without SML, one of the greatest talents and realized talents in the history of women's track and field and all of track and field, Femke would be a world record holder and a legend in her own right now over the hurdles. You don't just go, hey, I'm going to go and move up to the 800 meters, and then all of that history of training, of workload, of stress on the body just goes out the window, and you don't get to start from a fresh slate. That's all I've got to say on that one.
Unless you gave Selassie, because a lot of reports suggest he was a lot older than his reported age when he was winning things like World Juniors, which would have rendered Geb about 60 when he ran his World Age Group 40 World Half Marathon.
That's true. Hey, and also I would say as well, some people are going to say, but the marathon guys do it the 10K. Massive difference. Difference in the 5 and the 10 guys stepping up after long careers on the track to have careers on the road. There just is. There just is.
Right.
One more thing for you, and then we'll dip out. Back to Sam Ruthe.
Oh, the 740 attempt.
The 740 attempt back on the bouncy castle at BU. Great place to finish off the tour for those guys.
Today?
It's either today or tomorrow. It's probably on now, knowing us. 740 attempt. What do you think? Under over 740? What have you got?
Under.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's going to run 730, 73x. I mean, 756 to win that New Zealand title in at Hastings at the Mitre 10 Sports Park in Hastings, which would have been in terrible conditions because I'm from the Bay. Back over a year and a half ago, you come onto like the perfect environment to run a 3,000 meters in the entire world is at BU. It is just the 3,000 meters distance indoors is just, it's the perfect distance and speed to run indoors.
It hasn't been, which is a nice thing for the kid. I mean,
agree.
Hasn't been as much sort of like about this because of his
hype and fanfare.
Yeah. But that was still as we've set out at length, a tremendous run, the 352.
Yeah, was great.
It's still incredible. So, I think he can break 740.
No, I think so. And that'll be I'm sure that's another age group world record by multiple seconds. But I can see this in the tea leaves as well. I think it's just, he gets back to an environment that he's already run well on a couple of weeks ago, away from the pressure of, having to race the Olympic champion. I could also see that. So I think we're in agreement on that one. No money to be made or lost. The young man to go under 740. Anything else, Shano?
Nah.
Time to wrap it up?
Yeah, it's time to wrap it up.
What do you got planned for the rest of the weekend?
Bacon and eggs, mate. I've been in deep in the saddle with work this week, which is not a bad thing. But I'm going to be. I think it might be a bit of bacon and eggs, and maybe back to bed for a bit more kip. It's tough being in the media. You have to, keep to a schedule.
Yeah, I've already done the massive bacon and eggs fry up today. Like I said at the start of the pod, definitely been under the weather the last couple of days. I've slept. I had the big recovery hormone rush at about 1 a.m. in the morning, which kept me up till like 3:30. So I'm reeling. I'm probably just going to go and have a snooze, as they say in the business.
All right,
mate. Good stuff. We'll keep an eye out on if he breaks 7:30, I might jump on for an emergency update. Emergency pod, the world famous Track Stitch emergency podcast. Otherwise, Shano, we'll catch you next week. I'll probably be back down at sea level, testing the wares of this altitude training that I'm doing. But otherwise, have a good one, and we'll talk then.
You too, mate. Take it easy.
See ya. Peace.